بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين وخاتم النبيين ورحمة الله العالمين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Name of God, most gracious, most merciful, may prayers and peace be upon His most honorable Prophet, Prophet Muhammad, may prayers and peace be upon his family and friends. Allahumma ameen. All right, I'm sorry for all that's happened, but I apologize. It's just I really did try to take care of this, but not meant to be. But subhanAllah, today's topic seeks to confront an important family and social issue that persists within the family, the Muslim community. It's a topic that has often been brushed aside, misunderstood, misinterpreted, and in practice, replaced with man-made cultural traditions. Our discussion is about the Islamic financial laws concerning women. Much of the information I share with you today is actually may be found in my book, The Wealth of Women, Understanding Islamic Financial Laws. The book is based on my PhD dissertation and is available for purchase at Islamic bookstores like Mecca or Firdaus Books, or for pre-order on Amazon with its release set for January 21 this month, inshallah. I guess first I'd like to tell you that my sample study in my book shows that women, whether Muslim or non-Muslim, are financially mistreated within Muslim households. I used a phenomenological approach to interview 21 women from diverse backgrounds from different parts of the United States. And the interview approach is marked as being lengthy, informal, in-depth, and involving a limited number of participants. In this book, the process spanned about 2 years. The household sample that I used was generally consistent with the PEW statistics. The results showed that many of these women suffered a loss of financial rights that are firmly established in the Quran and the prophetic traditions. And in just a moment, I will share with you some numbers to show how serious this problem really is. But before diving into details, I'd like to provide some background on this issue. Because it's something actually all women from all faiths have been struggling with for decades. Across history, civilizations have restricted women's financial rights in the name of religion, civil law, and cultural custom. For example, Mosaic law allegedly deprived a female from all inheritance rights if she had any male siblings. In India, females received no share of inheritance under an agnostic law that only allowed males to inherit. Under Roman law, women never became financially autonomous. Unmarried women sat on the sidelines while their fathers and other male family members assumed complete control over their finances. Married women, on the other hand, were no better off, as they could neither execute a will nor take part in contractual agreements, and their husbands took charge of their wealth. Realize also that some of these ideas, including that a husband took control of a woman's finances and restricted her financial rights, were actually part of American society only 200 years ago, until certain reforms and laws were passed in the 1800s. Comparably, the Sharia, or the divine law derived from both the Quran and the prophetic tradition, established women's financial rights from as early as the 7th century. In fact, one can argue that the financial sources granted to women by the Sharia outweigh those sources available for men. In Islam, a person's birth automatically grants them both a legal identity and the responsibility for their actions, making them accountable to themselves and to others. This means that every person is born a legal being known in Arabic as dhimma, with certain rights and obligations. However, accountability and obligations only begin once a person reaches the age of puberty. When this time comes, people have duties towards one another, including protecting and honoring each other's right to wealth. Both males and females are able to possess their own wealth, and this possession grants them the freedom to do as one sees fit, whether to buy, to sell, to invest, gift, rent, or simply spend without the approval or permission of another. And now there's a lot of proof of women being able to possess their own property. For example, on the day of Eid, after the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam led the Eid prayer and gave his sermon, he began walking towards the area where all the women were to repeat some of what he had said, out of worry that maybe his voice hadn't reached them. Once in their area, he advised them and encouraged them to give sadaqah. Upon hearing his advice, the women momentarily removed their worn jewelry and gave it as sadaqah without asking or getting anyone's permission to do so. Imam al-Qurtubi, rahimahullah, a Quran, well-known Quran interpreter and hadith specialist, commented on the women's response in this hadith, pointing out that the tradition neither says that these women's husbands were present, nor these women sought their husband's permission or approval before giving this sadaqah. Specific Quranic verses, particularly Surah An-Nisa and Surah At-Talaq, they address financial sources for single, married, divorced, and widowed women. The list of income sources for women is long. However, due to the shortness of time, I will name just a few that are particularly important and most relevant to most of us today. First, as a young girl or a woman, she can inherit money. A situation happened during the life of the Prophet ﷺ when a man died and he left his wife and 3 daughters. And because it was customary during the pre-Islamic era for the male relatives to gain control over the wealth of females, the husband's cousins took over the estate of the deceased. Once the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam got word of this, he asked the widow to remain patient, and soon after Allah Azza wa Jal sent the ayah, for men is a share of what the parents and close relatives leave, and for women is a share of what the parents and close relatives leave, be it little or much, an obligatory share. Once the verse was revealed, the inheritance share of the widow and her daughters were given to them. Next, as a woman that earns money, her earnings belong only to her. Allah Azza wa Jal said in Surah An-Nisa, for men is a share of what they have earned, and for women is a share of what they have earned. This is a very important point because in Islam, a woman isn't entitled to keep all of the money she personally earns. Additionally, she's not responsible to financially provide for her family or her children, which actually opens for her an opportunity to save income and even invest her money. Now, there are many ways a woman can earn money. Examples of her earnings include rental or sales of her property. One verse that actually demonstrates her ability to rent her property is in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 233, which describes women who are employed to nurse a newborn, suggesting that she essentially rents out her milk supply for the use of a baby who is not hers. The verse says, and if you wish to have your children nursed by a substitute, there is no blame upon you as long as you give payment according to what is acceptable. As to selling her property, we have the example of when the Messenger ﷺ married a couple without there being a prescribed mahr, and the marriage was consummated. When the husband was on his deathbed, he remembered that he owed his wife her mahr, and he said to those that are present, "Now I bear you as witness that I give her my share from the booties of the Battle of Khaybar," and she took it and sold it for 100,000. As to buying, we have the example of Aisha, radiallahu anhu, the Prophet's wife, who purchased an enslaved woman by the name of Barira for the purpose of giving her her freedom without anyone's consent. And next, when she is about to marry, she has the right to mahr or sadaq. This is a marital gift given by the husband as a token of honor towards his new bride and to show his commitment of this union. This is evident from several verses, including verse 4 of Surah An-Nisa, which Allah Azza wa Jal said, "And give the women upon marriage their bridal gifts graciously." It is important to add that the gift of mahr is absolutely required in any marriage, whether it was mentioned in the marriage contract or not. In cases in which no mahr or marital gift was specified, the Messenger ﷺ ruled that a wife is to receive mahr al-mithl, which is a gift like what another woman in her family received upon matrimony. In one incident, a woman whose husband died prior to consummation, where no mahr was recorded or verbally specified, asked the Prophet's companion Ibn Mas'ud, and he ruled that she is to receive a mahr of her equal plus her inheritance right as a wife. According to Surah An-Nisa, verse number 20, there is no limit to the amount of mahr a man may gift his bride, as Allah Azza wa Jal said, and you have given one of them for their marital gift, qintara. Qintara is translated into a very large amount. Okay. As to the type of mahr, there is flexibility. So, for example, it can be cash, it can be jewelry, property, or even stocks, a nice new fresh idea with a benefit that's lasting. Next is nafaqah or marital maintenance, which includes all living expenses during a marriage. The Quran is clear that when a man marries a woman, he is to take on the responsibility as provider. Allah Azza wa Jal said in Surah At-Talaq, verse number 7, "Let a man of wealth spend according to his means, and he with limited resources provide according to whatever Allah has given him." Also, the Prophet ﷺ said, "They, that is, your wives, have a right over you to provide for them and clothe them in a reasonable manner." More evidence of the husband's role as provider may be found in verse 34 of Surah An-Nisa, where Allah Azza wa Jal said, "Men are al-qawamun." Men are the qawamun, protectors and maintainers of women by right of what Allah has given one over the other and what they spend for maintenance from their wealth. According to scholars, the word qawamun in this verse is in reference to men who take on the role obliged upon them to provide nafaqah for their wives and their children. By doing this, they are given leadership role in the family, but only on condition that they put shura into practice, meaning they discuss with their wives and children decisions that will directly have an effect on them. However, Quranic interpretation scholars like Imam Abu Hayyan al-Andalusi rahimahullah suggests that it may be possible that the term rijal, translated as men, stated in the verse may not necessarily speak about specific gender, but about roles based on their ability to work and provide, saying it may be that a female is given preference over a male. In fact, according to Imam al-Qurtubi rahimahullah, the majority of Muslim scholars agree that by virtue of that which they spend in verse 34 in Surah Nisa means that the moment the husband becomes unable to spend on his wife, he loses any authority over her. In either case, the man's role as the breadwinner, whether full or partial, does not give him the right to strip from his wife the sources of wealth granted to her by the Sharia. Of course, Included in living expenses is her residence, which is spoken of in Surah At-Talaq, verse number 6. The ayah says, lodge them where you dwell according to your wealth. Scholars agree that a husband's obligation to provide for his wife takes priority over any financial duties towards other family members. Hanbali scholars reason why this is, saying this is because it is a contractual duty in a marriage rather than a duty based on compassion or need. According to one hadith, nafaqah is first given to the wife, followed by the children, followed by house help. A man once asked the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya Rasulullah, I have a dinar. He told him, spend it on yourself. The man said, I have another dinar. The Messenger said, spend it on your wife. The man said, I have another. The Messenger said, spend it on your children. The man said, I have one more. The Messenger said, spend it on your servant. Is it important to know that when income sources like mahr or nafaqah are not properly provided to a wife, it is considered a debt to be paid by the husband the moment he becomes able. If never paid, the owed mahr and nafaqah payments should be taken from him upon divorce or from his estate upon his death, an amount separate from her inheritance. This type of income a woman receives late might actually create an investment opportunity for her. I just wanted to share with you some real numbers from the 21 women I interviewed. First, 72% of these women were denied the right to nafaqah in one way or another. For many years, for many of their married life, study participants found themselves spending from their parents' money or from their own personal wealth, whether from their earnings or inheritance or any other source of wealth, to pay for housing, groceries, clothes, transportation, or medical needs. As to the type of nafaqah losses, I have numbers. 57% of these women were not provided adequate housing. 71.5% of them were not provided adequate food. 76% did not receive their Islamic right to adequate clothing. These figures are certainly alarming, and they highlight the purpose behind my book. The financial challenges these women faced varied from receiving their mahr, receiving a mahr of their equal to those whose contract did not specify a mahr, receiving their deferred mahr, being provided with adequate living expenses to meet their and their children's needs, being able to keep their work earnings, being shamed to spend on living expenses for their personal from their personal earnings, being able to place their personal money in a private bank account, being able to live in a private home without their husband's family members residing in the same household, being able to hire house help even when their husbands could afford it, or being able to receive their divorce monetary rights, all of which are part of their nafaqah and general financial rights. Next is the income source of obligatory or voluntary type charities. For example, if a woman falls into the 8 categories of the obligatory zakat recipients stated in Surah At-Tawbah, verse number 60, she becomes eligible to receive this as a source of income. Allah Azza wa Jal said, zakat funds are only for the poor and for the needy and for those employed to collect zakat and for bringing hearts together for Islam and for freeing captives and for those in debt and for the cause of Allah and for the stranded or traveler, an obligation imposed by Allah. This means that there are situations when even zakat can be given to a woman when she is actually not poor or needy, but for example, if she is employed to collect zakat. Scholars generally rule that family members, such as a mother or a wife, who are owed financial support or nafaqah, cannot receive zakat from those who are already religiously obligated to financially support them. But an exception to this rule, based on many scholars, is that the woman, if the woman is, for example, in debt, as stated in the Quranic verse, they are also eligible for zakah from those obligated to financially support them, since they fall under these 8 categories. This view actually opens a door for a father, for example, to give zakah to his daughter whose husband falls short in spending on her. Scholars specifically address this point and rule that a wife whose husband fails to provide her with enough to meet her needs in a manner that is equivalent to what she was accustomed to prior to marriage is deserving of zakah. Next is the income sources upon divorce. They may include: 1, any delayed mahr would become due. 2, living expenses. According to most schools of thought, a woman has the right to certain living expenses during her post-divorce waiting period. There are differences between scholars between a divorce that's revocable and a divorce that's irrevocable. However, in cases involving children, 2 schools of thought rule that a woman unable to afford a home has a right to permanent residence for herself and her children. Number 3, mut'a, which stands for that which betters one's life, is actually a post-divorce payment which might be compared to alimony. This source of income is evident in the Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 236 and 241. Allah Azza wa Jal said, and for divorced women is mata'un, a provision according to what is acceptable, a duty upon the righteous. Also, Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, based on a narration of Imam Ahmad, said, mut'a is due for every divorcee. Number 4, what is called al-kad wa sa'aya. This is a source of income that is based on the Maliki school of thought, and it refers to a payment a husband makes to his ex-wife for the fruits of her labor, hard work, contributions to the family's accumulated wealth as a work partner, and according to some scholars, as a homemaker. This form of income source is rooted to the Quranic principles of justice, equity, and fairness. It has been adopted by several Islamic countries today, including Egypt and Morocco. Scholars that support this source of income give evidence of verses 39 to 42 of Surah An-Najm that emphasize the right of every human being to receive that which he or she strives for. This source of income also stems from a decision Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu made on behalf of a woman named Habiba bint Zuraiq. He ruled that she has the right to kad and sa'aya and is entitled to half of her husband's estate plus her share of inheritance for building their business together. Next is payment to a mother for children's expenses or child support, known in Arabic as nafaqat al-walad. And number 6 is a separate payment to a mother for providing childcare to the children, known as ujrat al-hadana. So now let me bring this talk to an end with some suggested solutions by presenting 2 questions, one towards the women and one towards the men. First, what steps can a woman take to claim her God-given rights and achieve financial security? To answer this, I share the advice of 21 amazing and most courageous women that I interviewed about their financial experiences during their marriage. Their full stories can be found in chapters 4 and 5 of my book and are very powerful. They give 4 pieces of advice. Number 1, to do everything in your power to attain a college degree. Number 2, to educate yourself on your specific financial rights within Islam and work on ways to be given these rights. Number 3, choose a partner who is compatible with you, not only in terms of faith, culture, personality, but in economic and social status, because this has a lot to do with how financially comfortable you will be in this marriage. Number 4, to reach an agreement with your husband prior to the marriage regarding your personal earnings. Never take for granted what Islam gave you and assume that it's going to just be automatically abided by, but prepare prenuptial agreements before marriage and condition that your personal earnings be yours. And my second question is, what can a man do to ensure that his wife receives her divinely ordained financial rights? Some suggested answers may include gaining knowledge of her financial rights as defined by Islam rather than dictated by culture practices. Find out what exactly is included as part of her nafaqah. Find out what Islam says about her personal money. Find out if doing house chores is part of her Islamic duty as a wife. Find out if house help is part of nafaqah. Find out what Islam requires of the home you provide her with. Find out what Islam says about her work paycheck. Find out what her specific mahr, when her specific mahr is due. Find out when her deferred mahr is due. Find what her divorce financial rights are and stand up to them. Divorce is not easy for women who have been working throughout their marriage, or those who have been dependent their entire life with children. So the matter requires much taqwa on your end. Number two, involve her in your household financial decision making, especially ones that are major, since it seems like many of the women I interviewed were often left out entirely. And when meeting with your financial advisor, make sure you include her. You don't want her to be left clueless about your financial situation. Remember, if one day you were to fall ill or, God forbid, pass away, she might be unprepared to manage the household or your business finances. This could leave her and your children in a difficult situation, possibly facing severe financial hardship, as reflected in some of the stories in my book. Follow the example of the Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who went all out that his wives and children are always provided for and never lose their homes, whether during his life or after he passes. To ensure this, he sallallahu alaihi wasallam left his wives and children farmland as waqf, meaning that the property could never be sold, and each wife would continually receive from its produce her entire life. This secured that their homes are never taken from them after his death as well. Husbands may use this method or other methods to secure their wives' and children's financial well-being, because based on the stories in my book, women had to face bad times upon the loss of their spouses. Know that when a woman feels financially secure, this will have a positive effect on both her physical and mental well-being, and this will in turn cause her to fulfill the needs of her family and of her community. The Quranic most powerful solution towards her financial security is وَعَاشِرُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, and live with them in kindness. Two words in the Quran that carried such profound significance that every school of thought relied on them to derive rulings from in order to secure the financial rights of women. Thank you very much, and jazakumullahu khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And now, if there is time, I'm certainly able to take any questions.
Thank you, Doctor. That was wonderful. I have a question. I heard you say that people of equal wealth status should marry. And so as a Westerner and a convert, I'm new to this. So, I mean, are you saying that if a woman is poor, she should marry a poor woman, a poor man? Sorry.
What I'm saying here, Jordan, is that it's been like historically known that the compatibility is very focused on only faith and maybe culture and so on. But now, if you even study how all of the schools of thought went about to create laws, they made they put like on top of priority the situation of the woman, social, financial situation, economical situation before she married, in order to see what is expected of her husband when he marries her. You understand? So it's something that I'm not sure if they it's something that's like every school of thought, when they made rulings, they put into consideration, okay, what does he owe her as far as the type of clothing, as far as the amount of food or the type of food, as far as the type of home that she lives in, the furniture that she has. They put into consideration all of these things. So it shows you, and the husband is expected to spend on her based on these things. So certainly, if we just ignore the economic situation, then certainly you're sort of not being realistic, because the schools of law put a lot of emphasis on this issue, if you're understanding me.
I think I do. I'm just trying to put it into a 21st century context.
Yeah, I mean, I know this is something that have not been emphasized too much in the past, but those who actually are that are students of Islamic studies, they will see, just especially fiqh, especially the laws, they will see how much this issue is important for her comfort when she marries, and actually for them to be both actually comfortable and compatible when they marry. So it can't just be ignored. So this is what I'm trying to say.
Inshallah, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Sophia has raised her hand.
Okay, Sophia.
Yes, Salamatullah. Barakallah fiki for this is a super important session, so I appreciate your time. I threw two questions in the chat. Number one is, can a husband force a wife to not work? And my second question was, if a man is no longer able to provide, does a woman have an automatic right to divorce, similar to a scenario of impotence?
Okay. Well, the second one, absolutely. Like, if there's impotent, she actually that she should have the right to a, an easy divorce, uh without even without even considering annulment or khula, because this is like um it's injustice. It's not like like he doesn't fall into the conditions of marriage. So a swift, easy divorce should come from this, without her being forced to file for khola, or remove herself from the marriage, because this is something that a lot of women are pushed towards so that they can give back their mahr. Uh, as for the first question, I'm sorry if you just repeat it one more time.
I had asked if a husband can force a wife to not work.
Right. Okay. So this issue, and this is really important. Like, even when you see some of the advice of the study participants, it's really important to talk about these things before you marry and come to an agreement. And even if this is something important for you, I would actually put it as a prenuptial, or I would put it as a condition that I like to work. I got an education. I'd like to work, and so on. So this is something that you should discuss in and come to an agreement prior to marriage. And if he had agreed to it and then after backed off, then that would be actually going against the marriage contract in Islam is considered mithaqan ghalidha. It's very strong. It's very powerful and needs to be abided by. So uh, he has to stand up to. You need to go to a scholar to share this problem, that he agreed to something and he backed off. If he has a reason that you cannot work, for example, if he has small children in the household that are still in need of their mother, then and he is the one that's spending in the household, he certainly has the right to say, well, who's going to, you know, raise my children? Who's going to, but if the children, there's no children, or the children have grown, then I would say that, you know, there needs to be a reasonable, you know, agreement. And, you know, really being forceful is not something that works these days. The other thing, of course, that I would like to make sure you understand is that if for any reason a husband is not fulfilling your you know, needs, Islamic needs, as far as the house, the clothing, the food, the medical needs, and all the things that you're expected to receive, then you can go to work without even whether he likes it or not. This is agreed upon. If, you know, so if you are deprived of your rightful, like if you know what you're rightful to, and you are not getting your rights, Islamic rights, then you don't have to, or you or your children are not getting enough of you know, to of your needs, then of course you certainly have the right to go to work and get money so that you can live a comfortable life. Did I answer, Sophia?
Yes, jazakallah khair.
Anyone else has any questions?
Yes, sister, I do.
Okay.
I don't have a question, but to sister, what's her name? Sister Sophia. It's just that when you get married, inshallah, or if you're married, just make sure that you have it on your nikah contract, like whatever you require. Like, I was just watching a video the other day, like said, like usually the the imam usually cross off the divorce section, but make sure that you read it like thoroughly and put in there, like if the person divorces me, I need this much money. Or there's also there's this Bilal Asad Sheikh. He's like a really famous sheikh, so he also said that if the woman does not have to work, the imam has to provide for him. If the imam is not able to, the community is responsible to work to provide for the wife, either because she's divorced or either because she's a widow or whatever. So make sure you write down everything in the contract before
I
you get married.
Yeah, I know the conditions, of course, are very important, but I want to say if any conditions have to do with money or anything that's economics, I would do prenuptials, because prenuptials is a separate contract, and they will stand strong in the court system. You know, but if you put things related to money in the marriage contract, this can actually hurt a woman because the court could think that the mahr is, you know, is you know, they consider the mahr as, like in the dissolution of a marriage, they consider the mahr, and it can be something that hurts her in the long run. So prenuptials are the safest way to go to write any money type conditions. I'm not talking about other types, but anything related to money, like during the marriage or after divorce, or anything like that.
Jazakallah khair, doctor. I had a couple questions as well. My first was whether wanting to confirm that is it up to the wife whether she can ultimately forgive the debt of owed nafaqah, like if, you know, for instance, which I feel like is a very common situation, especially in American society. You know, I know so many friends and siblings who just simply because of economic circumstances both must work, or maybe they had an event of a medical issue or some other type of, you know, disaster struck them, and simply the husband is not able to provide. I wanted to make sure excuse me, that first, that question of whether it's up to the wife that she can ultimately forgive that debt, or and second, what would you say about this situation? Was this encountered a lot in your interviews with your
Yeah.
the women, and what challenges does that prevent? Excuse me, my voice is going out. What challenges does that present when you're faced with that, and what's, I think, to be said of of mercy towards each other, inshallah.
Mm. And of course, there was a situation where a woman went to the Prophet ﷺ, and she told him that my husband is poor. Like, can I give him, can I give him like spend on him and the children? And he said, certainly you can do that, and your reward will be double. So you will get the reward, for spending on them and for giving sadaqah. But the thing that's really important here, I think, is that what is how a woman feels when she's doing this. Sometimes she's forced, and if she's forced, she doesn't have any other choice, or she's forced, or she's being shamed, or anything like that, then it's a debt. Okay, there's no way around it, that it's a debt. And if she's doing it like because not because like she wants to, but she feels like she's forced and she doesn't have any other choice, then it becomes a debt. And that debt, normally what scholars say to do is to just keep a record of your spending and for how long, and also have an entrusted person know that how much you're spending, for your daily needs and your children. So that's anytime it's not something you're doing it out of your own, a will, or then it becomes a debt upon divorce, or upon his death, God forbid. So that's one thing. If you're doing something out of your own heart, you really want to, then that's perfectly fine too. And it's a sadaqah, like the hadith that I just mentioned. It's just like that. The Prophet, told her that, you will get like double the reward, because it's considered like she's doing it out of heart. So that's the other thing. The other situation where I kind of opened up that door when I was speaking about the zakah. If some scholars say that if the husband is like poor, and he falls into the 8 categories of zakah, then the wife who is well off or whatever, she may give him as one of the categories of zakah, like, not so that's a view, that's an opinion. Some of the schools of thought say no, she can't, because he's the one that's supposed to provide for her, particularly the husband, because he's the provider. But there is a view that if either the wife or the husband fall into any of these categories, or even your son falls into any of these categories, that he would be eligible for your zakah, even though you might be like there might be, like you say, the husband or the father, he is responsible for his son, but his son is falls into one of these 8 categories. That some scholars say it's all right to pay part of the zakat to him as one of these categories. If I answered your question, I think.
Yes, thank you. I would say so.
Does anyone else have a question?
Just the question of what is the title of the book that was
Okay, the book is called The Wealth of Women. I mean, if you can see me, here's my book. It's called The Wealth of Women, Understanding Islamic Financial Laws. The book is sold like in Islamic bookstores like Mecca, or It's Firdaus, yes, Firdaus books, and it's also on you can pre-order it in Amazon, and it will be shipped the 21st. The date of its release to the public is the 21st, so it's just in a few days. So you can get it through Amazon, and they actually have a pretty good price on it right now. And I think if you order it from Amazon, it'll it'll arrive the 25th of January. From Mecca or Firdaus, they should send it right away. It's also going to be in Barnes and Noble and Walmart and all these. They will be publicly released on the 21st. Inshallah.